The alien beggar. The city of Neoterra was bright, busy, and cold. Tall buildings touched the sky. Flying cars moved like insects in the air. Neon signs glowed in every language. Humans walked in shiny suits, heads held high, never looking down. The dirty ground, under a broken metal bridge, sat a small alien woman. Her name was Zero, but no one knew that. To the world, she was just a beggar. Just another dirty alien with strange skin, glowing eyes, and no future. Her clothes were torn. Her feet were bare. She held a small metal bowl in her hands, shaking it gently. "Please, food," she asked quietly. No one stopped. Some laughed. Others looked away. A man dropped a small coin in her bowl without looking. Zero picked it up. It was fake. She was hungry. Her stomach made a sound. She had not eaten in 2 days. Her mouth was dry, and her head hurt. Still, she sat there, waiting, hoping. The humans ruled everything now. After the Great War, Earth had become the center of power in the galaxy. Aliens from lost planets were brought here, not as guests, but as workers, slaves, or beggars. Zero's planet had been destroyed. She had no family, no name, no future. But she had something stronger than hope. She had a secret. One afternoon, as the sun hid behind gray clouds, a strange man passed by. He wore a black coat and walked fast, looking behind him again and again. In his hand, he held a small, shiny chip. He bumped into someone and dropped the chip. It slid across the ground and stopped near Zero. She looked at it. The chip was no bigger than a fingernail, but it glowed with a red light. It pulsed, like a heartbeat. Zero picked it up quickly and hid it under her bowl. The man looked around but didn't see it. He ran away. Zero looked down at the chip again. It felt warm in her hand, alive. She didn't know what it was, but she knew it was important, very important. She stood up. Her legs were weak, but she moved fast. She walked away from the crowd, bowl in hand, chip hidden. Behind her, 2 small, flying drones stopped in the air. Their red eyes blinked. One scanned the ground. Target lost. Possible interference. Object missing. Scan for alien activity. The drones turned and followed Zero. She entered an old tunnel near the edge of the city. The walls were wet, and the smell was bad, but it was safe. She had slept here before. She sat down and took out the chip. "Who are you?" she whispered to it. The chip blinked once, then twice. Then beep, a soft sound came from Zero's bag. She pulled out a broken robot head she had found days ago in the trash. It had one eye and a rusty port. Without thinking, she pushed the chip into the robot. At first, nothing. Then the eye blinked. Lights turned on. The robot spoke in a calm human voice. "Commander access detected. Welcome back. Project Echo." Zero froze. What did you call me?" The robot's eye turned toward her. "Project Echo. Class, Alpha 7. Half-human genome. Memory damaged. Rebooting system." Zero's heart beat fast. She had no memory of being in any project. She didn't even know what Alpha 7 meant, but that name. Echo. She had heard it once. In a dream. A dream of fire, screaming, and a man with kind eyes. "Who am I?" she asked. The robot paused. Double quotes. "Searching. ... Access blocked. Code. Clearance needed." Before she could ask again, a red light flashed in the tunnel. The drones had found her. "Halt. You have stolen government property. Surrender immediately." Zero grabbed the robot head and ran. She turned corners, crawled through a hole in the wall, and climbed up old pipes. The drones followed, fast and loud. One shot a laser. It missed but burned her arm. She cried out, but kept moving. Finally, she reached a vent at the top and kicked it open. Light poured in. She crawled out and dropped into an alley. The drones didn't follow. They couldn't. Zero sat there, breathing hard. She looked at the robot again. "What is this chip? Why me?" The robot's eye blinked. "You are not a beggar. You are the key." Zero looked at the sky. Somewhere up there, someone knew the truth, and she was going to find it. Zero sat quietly in the dark alley. Her arm burned from the laser wound. Her breath came fast and heavy. The robot head in her hands blinked slowly, its single eye glowing blue. "You are the key," it had said. But to what? The chip was still inside the robot. It glowed red, like a living heart. Zero didn't understand what it was, or why it called her Project Echo, but one thing was clear. Ever since she picked up that chip, everything had changed. She wrapped her arm with a piece of cloth and stood up. Her legs felt weak, but her mind was awake, now sharper than ever. She walked through narrow back streets of the city. Neon signs flickered above her, casting strange colors on her skin. She knew she had to find a safe place, somewhere to think, somewhere quiet. An old building stood at the edge of the zone. Its windows were broken, its door hanging loose. Zero pushed it open and stepped inside. Dust filled the air. Broken furniture lay scattered across the floor. But it was safe enough. She sat on the floor and placed the robot head in front of her. "Talk to me," she said. "Who am I?" The robot buzzed. "Partial memory access granted." It blinked, then played a small hologram. A man appeared. He wore a white coat and had kind eyes. He was holding a small alien baby in his arms. "This is Echo. She is part of the Alpha Project. DNA fusion successful," he said. "She is strong. She is smart. She is our hope." Zero leaned forward, heart pounding. Was that her? The image changed. Soldiers entered the room. The man shouted, "Hide her. They'll kill her if they find her." The hologram ended. Zero stared at the space where the man had been. So she wasn't just an alien beggar. She had been created for something bigger, a secret project, a mix of human and alien. But why was she left on the streets? Suddenly, the robot's eye turned red. "Warning, tracking signal detected." Zero grabbed it. "Turn it off. Signal is coming from the chip. Removing it will erase current memory." Zero looked at the glowing chip. If she pulled it out, she'd lose the answers. But if she kept it, they'd find her again. She took a deep breath. "Not yet. We run." Outside, the streets were quieter now. Zero moved through shadows, the robot hidden under her coat. Every time she passed a drone, she held her breath. But they didn't stop her. Not yet. She reached the lower district, called the Junk Belt. It was where all broken tech was dumped. She had lived here once, for weeks. Now she was back. Inside a pile of scrap, she found an old data console. It was rusty, but still worked. She plugged the robot into it. "Search for Project Echo. Search for Alpha 7, she said. The console blinked. It worked slowly. Then words appeared on the screen. "Access denied, high-level classification authorized by Commander Ryasira." Read the name again. Commander Reith. Something about it felt familiar. "Who is Reith?" she asked. The robot answered. "Lead scientist and commander of the Alpha Project. Status: alive. Current location: Earth Defense Command." Zero's eyes narrowed. So he's still here. Still alive. Was he the man in the hologram? If so, why had he never come for her? Why had he left her to starve? That night, she slept in an old supply crate. Her dreams were full of fire, of screaming voices, and glowing machines. She saw a baby being taken away. She saw men in black suits. She saw eyes like her own. When she woke, it was still dark. The city above her never slept. But down here, everything was quiet. She looked at the robot. "Why did that chip call me? A commander? Unknown. Chip belongs to a restricted AI system. You activated it. That means you had previous access. So, I was someone important." "Yes." Zero looked at her dirty hands, her broken nails. She had begged on the streets. She had eaten trash. She had no name, no family. But now she had a path. She was going to find this Reith. She was going to get answers. But just as she stood up, the wall beside her exploded. Boom. Metal flew everywhere. Smoke filled the air. Zero fell to the ground, coughing. Red lights flashed through the dust. A voice shouted, "Do not move." She crawled behind the scrap pile, holding the robot close. More footsteps. They were fast. Soldiers. Armed. They had found her. One of them shouted, "Target located. She has the chip." Zero's heart raced. She turned to the robot and whispered, "Give me a way out." The robot blinked. "Tunnel under your feet. Kick the floor panel." She looked down, kicked hard once, twice until the metal cracked. She dropped into the darkness below. Just as a soldier fired his weapon. The last thing she heard was the voice above shouting, "Don't let her escape. She's the last Echo." Darkness surrounded Zero as she fell into the tunnel below. Dust and pieces of metal rained down behind her. Her arms hurt. Her head spun. But she was alive. She landed hard on wet ground. It smelled like rust and old oil. She could hear voices, shouting above, but they were far now. Safe for the moment, the robot head rolled beside her. Its eye flickered. "You are injured. Do you require help?" "I'm fine," Zero whispered, even though she wasn't. "Where are we?" "Old maintenance tunnels. City level -7. Zero sat up slowly. Her side burned, but she didn't complain. She had survived worse. She picked up the robot and started walking through the tunnel. Pipes lined the walls, and the ceiling leaked drops of water. The only light came from the robot's eye, and the red chip still glowing inside it. As she walked, she remembered the hologram, the man with kind eyes, the baby in his arms, and the word he used, echo. "Tell me more about Commander Reith," she said. Commander Reith was the chief of the Alpha Project. He helped create hybrid life forms. Part human, part alien. Like me. Yes. Zira stopped walking. "So, I wasn't born, I was made. You were grown in a lab. Designed for intelligence, speed, and survival. You are Alpha 7, last living model." Her chest felt tight. She had always believed she came from a poor alien family, lost in war. She had imagined a mother, a father, a home destroyed by humans. But now, it was all false. She didn't have a family. She had a file. Hours passed as she moved through the tunnels. Finally, she found a broken stairway leading up. She climbed carefully and came out into an old train station, abandoned and dusty, forgotten. She sat on a bench and pulled the chip out of the robot. She turned it in her fingers, so small, but so dangerous. She needed answers. She needed answers. In a far corner of the station, behind a vending machine, she found a small data port. She plugged the chip directly into it. The screen lit up. A password appeared. Zira typed the word echo. Access granted. Suddenly, dozens of old video files filled the screen. She clicked the first one. A man appeared. Commander Reith. He looked younger than in the last hologram. Behind him were tall tanks filled with glowing liquid. Inside one was a tiny form, part human, part alien. "This is Alpha 7, Reith said. "She is stronger than the others. Her brain activity is faster. She's learning emotions, speech, even empathy." He smiled, proud. Another file opened. Reith looked tired now. "They want to shut us down," he whispered. "They say hybrids are dangerous. They don't understand. Echo is not a weapon. She's proof that peace is possible." Zira stared at the screen. Was that all she was? A peace experiment? Then came the final file. The screen was shaky. Loud alarms were ringing in the background. Soldiers were shouting. Reith held a small child. "She's just a girl," he yelled. "She hasn't hurt anyone." A soldier pointed a weapon. "Orders are clear, sir. No survivors." Reith's face changed. He looked directly into the camera. "If you're watching this, Echo, I'm sorry. I tried to protect you." The screen went black. Zira sat frozen. The silence around her was heavy. Reith had saved her. He had called her Echo. He had hidden her from the people who wanted her dead. So why didn't he come back? Where was he now? The robot's eye blinked. New signal detected. Friendly source. "What do you mean?" Zira asked. "A message has been sent to the chip. From Commander Reith." Zira's heart stopped. The robot played the message. Reith's voice came through, tired but calm. "Echo, if you're alive, listen carefully. The Council has found out you survived. They will send more hunters. But you are more than an experiment now. You are living proof that peace between humans and aliens is real. If you can find me, we can stop this war before it begins again." Then his voice dropped. "But if you fall into their hands, they'll use you. They'll turn you into something you're not." Zira closed her eyes. She had lived her whole life thinking she was nothing. Just a beggar, just another alien. But now, she had purpose. She was born built to stop the war. To be something more. She stood up. "I'm going to find him." But before she could move, the lights in the station flickered. Then came a slow, metallic sound. Footsteps. Zira turned fast, holding the robot tight. A tall figure stepped out of the shadows. Black armor, red visor, a metal arm. The bounty hunter. He looked at her without emotion. "You've come far," he said, "but not far enough." Zira backed away. Her hands shook. The chip was still in the data port. The hunter raised his weapon. "Come quietly, Project Echo, or be destroyed." Zira's eyes narrowed. "I'm not a project," she said. "I'm a person." She grabbed the chip, turned, and ran. Behind her, the hunter followed, cold, silent, unstoppable. Zira ran through the broken train station, her feet slamming against old tiles. Sparks flew as the bounty hunter fired behind her, silent, deadly energy blasts that lit up the darkness. She didn't look back. The robot head was tucked under her arm. The chip, still glowing, pulsed in her pocket like a second heartbeat. The hunter was fast. Too fast. He didn't speak now. He didn't shout. He just followed, silent, focused, machine-like. Zero turned a sharp corner and ducked into a narrow tunnel. Pipes lined the walls. The space was tight, but her small body could fit. The hunter couldn't follow at least not easily. She crawled, fast, breathing hard. Finally, the tunnel opened into a power room full of wires and dead machines. Zero slumped behind a crate, holding her side. Her body was shaking. The robot's eye flickered, heart rate elevated. Risk of collapse. Hi, I'm fine, she whispered. He's still behind me. The robot blinked. You cannot outrun him forever. He's not just a bounty hunter. He's a prototype enforcer, a half-human machine, built for one purpose. Zero looked up. To kill people like me. Yes, especially people like you. She stood, slowly, quietly. Around her, broken screens and old tools lay scattered. Then she saw something useful, an emergency power cell and a wire launcher. Can this work? She asked the robot. For a distraction, yes. For a fight, no. I don't want to fight, she said. Just escape. She quickly connected the power cell to the launcher and aimed it toward a high window. The glass was cracked, and old click the wire shot up, stuck to the wall. She pulled hard and began climbing. Her body screamed with pain, but she didn't stop. Just as she reached the window, the wall behind her exploded. The bounty hunter stepped through the smoke. His red visor glowed. His voice was calm. Running is useless. Zero gritted her teeth and kicked the glass. It shattered. She pulled herself up and rolled out onto a rooftop. The wind hit her face. She coughed but kept moving, jumping over pipes and vents. She needed a plan. Fast. From the rooftop, she saw the city lights. In the distance stood a tall tower with a golden ring around it. The Earth Defense Command. That's where Wreath was. Her only chance. Behind her, the hunter rose through the window without effort. His feet made no sound on the rooftop. He raised his weapon again. Zero didn't stop. Instead, she jumped off the edge. She fell onto a lower roof, rolled, then hit the ground hard. Pain shot through her leg, but she forced herself to get up. Sirens wailed somewhere nearby. A hover car flew overhead. Zero waved. Help, please. The car stopped mid-air. A young human boy peeked out from the side window. His eyes widened. Are you an alien? Yes, Zero gasped. But I'm not dangerous. Please help me. He's coming. The hunter dropped down behind her like a shadow. The boy screamed. The hovercar flew away. Zero turned to run again, but her leg gave out. She fell. The hunter stood over her now. His weapon powered up. You were never meant to survive, Echo, he said. Your existence is a threat. Zero looked up, face covered in dust, eyes burning. I didn't choose this, she said, but I won't let you end it. She pressed a button on the robot. Activating overload. The robot said. The chip inside it began to glow brighter and brighter. The hunter's visor blinked. Warning. Detonation detected. He stepped back. Zero threw the robot at his feet. A blast of light filled the alley. Boom. Smoke rose into the night sky. Zero crawled out from under a dumpster, coughing. The robot was gone. Destroyed. But so was the hunter, at least for now. Only, his metal arm remained, sparking and broken. Zero looked at the glowing chip in her hand. It had survived. Barely she stood up, limping. Her journey wasn't over. Hours later, she sat on a slow cargo train heading toward the city center. Her leg was wrapped in cloths. She watched the lights go by as the sky turned purple with morning. The chip felt heavy in her pocket. She had no robot now, no weapons, no backup. But she had something stronger, purpose. Somewhere in the city, Commander Wreath was waiting. She didn't know if he would help her. She didn't even know if she could trust him. But she was done hiding. She was going to find him. Meanwhile, far above, in a quiet, clean office at Earth Defense Command, Commander Wreath looked at a blinking red dot on his screen. His hand trembled. She's alive, he whispered. Behind him, a general stepped forward. What are your orders, sir? Wreath stood slowly. I'm going to meet her, he said. Alone. The city center was brighter, cleaner, and colder. Towers of glass rose high into the sky, glowing under the rising sun. Flying cars moved in perfect lines. Drones patrolled the streets. Everyone walked with purpose. No one looked down. Zero did. She wore an old coat with a torn hood. Her leg still hurt. Her arm was bandaged. Her face was tired. But her eyes were sharper than ever. In her pocket, the chip still glowed dim now. Like a candle running out of wax, she stood near a fountain, watching the Earth Defense Command tower from across the plaza. That was where he worked. Commander Wreath. The man from the hologram. The man who had once saved her, and then vanished. She didn't know if he would remember her. She didn't even know if he wanted to, but she had to find out. Inside the tower, Commander Reith stood alone in a dark meeting room. He wore a black coat, his hair streaked with gray, his face lined by years of war and regret. A screen on the wall showed surveillance footage, a cloaked figure limping through the city. He knew it was her. Echo. His voice cracked. He hadn't said that name in over 20 years. Reith made his choice. He left the building quietly, alone, and walked toward the Fountain Plaza. He wore no armor, no guards followed him. Only a small data device in his beacon linked to Zira's chip. He followed the signal, and there on the other side of the plaza stood a girl with a hood. She didn't move, neither did he. People walked between them, unaware. Two lives frozen in the middle of a moving world. Then she stepped forward. So did he. They met near the water, where the sound of the fountain hid their voices. For a long moment, they said nothing. Then Zira pulled back her hood. Reith's eyes widened. You look like her, he whispered. Like who? My daughter, he said softly. She died. Long before you were born. Zira looked away. So I was a replacement. No, he said, quickly. You were never that. You were hope. Zira's hands tightened into fists. Hope, she said. You left me in the streets. You let me starve. You let them hunt me like an animal. I tried to protect you, Reith said. They shut the project down. They wanted you dead. I had to hide you. It was the only way. I don't believe you, Zira said. He didn't argue. He looked down. I don't expect you to. Silence fell between them again. Then she took the chip from her pocket, held it out. You sent this, she said. You knew I'd find it. Reith nodded. It was linked to your DNA. Only you could activate it. What's inside it? She asked. Reith looked around. Not here. He turned and began to walk. Zira followed. They went into an old subway station under the city, long abandoned, forgotten by most. Reith entered a secret room through a scanner door. Inside was a table, a console, and 3 chairs. Sit, he said. Zira stayed standing. He placed the chip into the console. A soft light filled the room. The screen showed files. Secret files, war, plans, hybrid research, peace treaties never signed. Zira read silently. This is why they want me, she said. Yes, Reith replied. Because you're living proof that humans and aliens don't need to be enemies. You are both. And that scares them. Then why did you hide this for so long? She asked. Reith looked at her, eyes full of pain. Because I was afraid. Zira finally sat down. Her voice was quieter now. So what happens next? Reith looked straight at her. You lead. Zira frowned. Lead what? A message, he said. To both sides, that peace is possible. That we don't have to repeat the same war again. Zira shook her head. I'm just a beggar. Fugitive. Reith smiled. You're more than that. You escaped hunters. You found the truth, and you came here anyway. He paused. I see leadership in you. Zira didn't reply. Her hands touched the edge of the table. I don't know if I can forgive you. I understand, Reith said. But I want to stop the war, she added. I want them to see I'm not a weapon. Reith nodded slowly. Then, we'll do it together. Suddenly, the console beeped. Warning. Unauthorized signal. Detected. Reith's face changed. They found us. Zira stood up, eyes sharp again. Did you lead them here? No. I came alone. She didn't believe him. Completely, but she stayed. Above them, heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnel. Zira and Reith stood side by side. Eyes on the door. It opened slowly. A small squad of black armored soldiers entered, weapons raised, but they didn't fire. The leader looked at Reith. We were told to bring you both in alive. Reith glanced at Zira. We can fight, he whispered. Zira took a deep breath. No, she said. Not yet. Let them see who I really am. She stepped forward, hands raised not in fear, but in control. I'll go with you, she said. But tell your leaders this. She looked each soldier in the eye. I'm not just Echo. I'm the voice they tried to silence. And I'm done hiding. The trial room was silent. Cold lights hung from the ceiling. White walls. One long table. 7 human council members sat behind it, dressed in gray. Their faces hard and unreadable. Zira stood in front of them. No weapons. No chains. No fear. Only her voice. The room was full. Military officers, alien ambassadors, and reporters watched from the shadows behind a clear barrier. Every camera was recording. Every eye was on her, the beggar, the fugitive, the hybrid girl with a glowing chip in her pocket. And somewhere, behind the glass, Reith stood watching, silent, still waiting. The council leader, an old man named Vaughn, leaned forward. "You are Project Echo," he said. Zira didn't flinch. "My name is Zira. Your file says otherwise. Your file also said I was dead." A few people murmured. Vaughn narrowed his eyes. "You carry classified military data. You accessed it illegally." "I accessed my own life," she replied. "You buried it. I just dug it up." Another council member, a woman with sharp features, cut in. "Do you expect us to trust someone who isn't fully human?" Zero took a step forward. "I didn't choose my DNA, but I choose my actions." "Your kind started a war," the woman said coldly, voice dropped. "So did yours." Silence again. Zero took out the chip and placed it on the table. "This contains the truth. About the Alpha Project. About Reith. About what you did to me. And what you plan to do to others like me." The chip blinked. Blue light spread across the table. Holograms lit up files, videos, test logs, hidden orders, and failed experiments. Gasps filled the room. Zira's voice rose. "You didn't shut the program down because it was dangerous. You shut it down because it worked. Because you were afraid of what it meant that peace between humans and aliens could exist." Councilman Vaughn stood, face tight with anger. "You're trying to embarrass this council. Do you think this will change the people's mind?" "I'm not here to change minds," Zira said calmly. "I'm here to speak the truth, whether you like it or not." Later, in a private chamber, Reith met her again. He looked tired, proud, but worried. "They won't forgive you easily," he said. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she replied. "I just want to be seen." "You were seen today," Reith said. "By the galaxy." In the weeks that followed, things changed. Not quickly, not smoothly, but they changed. Zero was granted temporary diplomatic status. She was allowed to speak at the United Galactic Forum, something no alien hybrid had ever done. Her speech was short. "I grew up in the dark, treated like a mistake. But now I see I was not broken. I was made for something. Not war, not violence, but understanding. I don't ask for pity. I asked for peace. Because if someone like me or nobody can learn to stand, then maybe you can learn to listen." The recording went viral. Billions watched. Some hated her. Others began to hope. In alien zones, murals of Zero appeared, drawings of her standing, with her head high, with the words, "Alien no more." In human schools, children asked about Project Echo. History books were edited. Change had begun. But not everyone was happy. Some human generals wanted her removed. Some alien leaders didn't trust her either. "She's still one of them," they whispered. "She's still part us." Others said. Zero walked the line between two worlds and not everyone wanted peace. Meanwhile, she trained. Reith had arranged for her to join the Earth Defense Training Program, not as a soldier, but as a leader in training. She stood in front of a class of young officers one morning. Most looked confused, some angry. She smiled and said, "I'm not here to teach you how to fight. I'm here to teach you how not to." By the end of the session, half of them clapped. It was a start, in quiet moments. She and Reith talked more. They shared stories, memories, and regrets. Zero learned about his daughter, lost in a shuttle crash. Reith learned how Zero survived all those years eating scraps, running from drones, hiding from soldiers. One evening, they stood on a balcony overlooking the stars. Reith turned to her. "You remind me of her, but you're not her. You're stronger." Zero looked at him. "And you're not the man I thought you were. But maybe that's a good thing." They both laughed. Then came the council's final test. A peace mission to an alien mining colony that had started a revolt. Zero was asked to lead it with full authority. "Why me?" she asked. "Because they'll listen to you," Reith replied. "They won't listen to us." Zero paused. "Then I'll speak for both." She stepped onto the ship as a former beggar. She stepped off as a representative of Earth. In her hand was the same chip. In her heart was the same fire. She spoke to the alien workers in their own language. She listened. She promised action. And for the first time in 10 years, no violence followed. That night, back on Earth, as the news spread, a message lit up Reith's screen. From Zira, mission complete. No casualties. Maybe peace isn't a dream after all. Reith smiled. He typed back, "Maybe not also." Dinner. Zira's reply came 1 second later. "I thought you'd never ask." The stars above Earth shone brighter than usual. Or maybe Zira had just started noticing them. She stood on the balcony of the Unity Tower, Earth's new peace headquarters. Below her, the capital city of Neoterra, buzzed with light and life. But here, in the sky, it was calm. She touched the edge of the railing, remembering everything, begging on the streets, stealing food, running from drones. She had once been hunted. Now, she was heard. And tonight, she would be seen like never before. Inside the tower, the grand hall was filled with people, humans, aliens, hybrids, military generals, alien elders, young students, news cameras. They all stood in silence as she entered the room. She didn't wear armor. She didn't carry weapons, just a long silver robe and a small pin over her heart. The symbol of peace, a human hand and an alien hand. Side by side, at the center of the hall stood Commander Reith, tall and proud, but with soft eyes only for her. As she walked toward him, the crowd parted. A reporter whispered, "That's her. The girl from the chip." Another said, "She's not just a symbol. She's history." And one small alien child tugged her mother's sleeve and pointed. "Mom, is she the humans' wife?" The mother smiled. "Not yet." Zero reached Reith. They stood together under a shining arch, decorated with crystal leaves from her destroyed homeworld, and steel wires from Earth's earliest satellites. Their pasts, woven together. A voice spoke through the room. "Today, we do something never done before. A human and a hybrid. Not joining forces in war, but joining hands in peace." Zero looked into Reith's eyes. "You sure about this?" she whispered. Reith smiled. "I was sure the moment I saw you speak in front of the council, maybe even before." Zero laughed softly. "I never thought I'd end up here." "You didn't end up here," he said. "You walked here." The ceremony was simple. No long speeches, no politics, just a promise. Reith took her hand. "I once lost everything," he said. "Then I found you. You are not my past. You are my future." Zero looked at him, eyes bright. "I was made to be a tool, a weapon. But I chose to be more. I chose to be someone. And now, I choose you." The room erupted into soft applause. It wasn't loud. It wasn't wild. It was respectful, honest, real. For once, both humans and aliens clapped for the same thing. Love and hope. Later that evening, they sat alone in the garden above the tower. No guards, no cameras, just the stars. Zero leaned her head on Reith's shoulder. "You know, some people still think this is a trick," she said. "I know," Reith replied. "But we don't need everyone to believe. Just enough." She looked up. "I thought I'd feel different, more powerful. But I still feel like that girl who slept in sewers." Reith nodded. "You are. But now you've decided what her story becomes." Suddenly, a soft chime echoed from the tower. A message. Reith opened the small screen on his wrist. It was from the council. He read it slowly, then looked at Zero. "What is it?" she asked. "They're offering you a new title," he said. Zero raised an eyebrow. "Oh no, not ambassador again." He laughed. "No, bigger." He turned the screen to her. "Zero Reith, Earth's first interplanetary unity leader." She stared at it, then smiled. "Sounds exhausting." "You can say no." Zero leaned back and looked at the sky. "No, I think I'll say yes." In the months that followed, changes spread faster than ever. Alien work zones were shut down. Voting rights were extended across species. Schools began teaching hybrid history. Mixed culture festivals were held across planets. And across space, people whispered the name Zero, with a strange new feeling: respect, of course. Not everyone agreed. There were protests, angry broadcasts, even threats. But every time someone tried to silence her, Zero answered the same way. Not with fear, with truth. In one interview, a human reporter asked her, "Do you regret marrying a human leader?" Zero smiled. "I didn't marry a human leader," she said. "I married a man who listened when no one else did." "And who are you now?" the reporter asked. She thought for a moment, then said, "I'm not a beggar. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a project or a title. I'm a choice, and I chose peace." Years later, a statue was built in the center of the Unity Plaza. It showed a small alien girl offering a glowing chip to a tall human man. The plaque at its base read, "From the dirt, she rose. From silence, she spoke. From war, she chose love." Zero never saw herself as a hero. She still woke up some nights remembering the streets, the hunger, the fear. But now, when she opened her eyes, she saw stars. And beside her, always, the man who had once whispered, "You were born to change everything." And she had